I call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, November 10th, 2025 at 7:05 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Harrison,
Hello, here.
Alderperson Helmke,
Present.
Alderperson Hoaxed,
Present.
Alderperson Keller,
Here.
Alderperson Lytle,
Here.
Alderperson Swanson,
Here.
Alderperson Tucker Long,
Here.
Alderperson Weiss.
Here.
All right, we have enough people for a quorum, so we can proceed. We'll move on to item 4, which is public comment. Before we get into public comment, I just want to make 3 quick points. We are debuting a new 5-minute timer. The City of Verona does have a 5-minute time limit on public comment for city council meetings. In the past, I haven't really enforced it, and some of my colleagues have reminded me that I should be enforcing it. So I wish we were rolling out the timer in a meeting with fewer people in the room, but this is the one we picked. So we're rolling that out. So I guess please keep the time limits in mind. 2, if you're here to comment on the budget, we have a separate public hearing under 10A2, and we'd prefer you to comment under the public hearing for the City of Verona budget. That being said, if you want to talk about the budget during public comment, I'm not going to come up and try to stop you. And then 3, once again, alders, this is more of a reminder for alders, but alders can only talk, and myself as well, can only talk about things that are publicly noticed on the agenda. If someone during public comment brings up something that's not on the agenda, we can't talk about it because it hasn't been properly noticed. Again, thank you for bearing with us as we got a little bit of a late start, but we are in public comment. So whoever is first, please proceed to the table. And thank you for signing.
Timer if you want, go ahead.
Thank you for signing in, I was going to say.
All right, good evening. For those of you who do not know me or do not recognize me out of my uniform, my name is Matt Lovell, and I'm one of your police sergeants. I have worked for the City of Verona Police Department for 16 years and have been in law enforcement for 21 years. The only time in my law enforcement career I've taken a pay cut was when I made a choice to come here and get hired by the City of Verona, and I did that because I heard the grass was greener, so to speak, in Verona. Over my 16 years, I've generally found that to be true, especially with the culture within the police department, and I am grateful to serve this community. Clearly, pay is not always the most important thing. However, tonight you will be discussing and possibly taking action on City Administrative Policy 4, Section 3, related to stripping the sergeants of the education incentive. City staff has indicated for months that you will vote in the affirmative on this matter. I'd like you to all have some knowledge of the history of this first. Last year, I approached city staff about a discrepancy in education incentive and how it was being applied to sergeants. The city policy, as it stands, said that we were supposed to get the same education incentives as dictated in the collective bargaining agreement of patrol officers. However, when represented staff, education incentive increased, the sergeants did not. The sergeants requested back pay, which was denied by city staff. City staff said the intent of the council when that CBA went into effect was to change the policy to keep the sergeant education incentive the same as at that time, which was 5% for a bachelor's degree in our case of all of our sergeants, and not raise it with represented staff. We were told multiple times this was because we made too much money because we are allowed to work overtime, and we do so to help the community, support the department and its staff, as well as support our own families. A lot of this overtime does not even cost the city money, as it is reimbursed by grants and community event organizers. We were also told by city staff that they had the right to change the policy whenever they felt, as it was just a guideline, so they denied our claim and said we could take it up with the personnel committee. I made a public comment with that committee, and I'm grateful that they understood our perspective and provided for back pay. Moving forward, I anticipated a likelihood of a policy change by the council back down to the 5% we were told was the intended educational incentive moving forward, which would be understandable. Never did I think city staff would recommend completely removing the incentive without a grandfather clause for current sergeants, which feels retaliatory, quite frankly. You likely will be or have been told the city staff has proposed rolling the education incentive into the base salary this coming year as part of the compensation study. The numbers provided to us for next year have been reflected in that manner, first applying the cost of living raise and a one-time education incentive increase before placing us in the proper step on the chart. These calculation methods have caused sergeants to take a cut in pay beginning next year, despite city staff telling all employees that no one would lose any money. On paper, it looks like a couple $100 lost for us. In reality, it is much more impactful than that next year and for every year moving forward based on how an education incentive works. In closing, I think Verona is more than an average city, and we have above average employees because of our past compensation packages. But yet, our compensation study plotted us at just average using the 50% of comparables model. While concerned with the impacts of the financial adjustments, I also have concerns for the potential impact on Verona's commitment to fostering a supportive employee environment and encouraging personal growth. I am well aware other employees of other departments feel the same. Word spreads quick, and members of the community have already apologized to me that sergeants are taking a pay cut and losing our education incentive. As sergeants are not part of a collective bargaining unit, we are at the mercy of your decision based on the recommendations of city staff. I am taking this time tonight simply to ask that you take into consideration how and why this staff recommendation came about before making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so whoever's next, make your way to the table.
Hello again. Good evening. My name is Scott Fuller, and I'm a resident here in Verona. And I'm here to ask the council to not renew the city's contract with Flock Safety and to remove these warrantless mass surveillance devices from our community. Flock Safety is a private company operating a rapidly expanding network of nearly 100,000 AI-powered vehicle identification cameras nationwide. These cameras identify vehicles not only based on license plate, like traditional ALPR cameras do, but also based on physical characteristics like make, model, color, cargo, body damage, and bumper stickers. Flock stores the data of every vehicle that passes its cameras and provides the data as a searchable nationwide network to its contracted partners, including not only local police and sheriff departments, but also ICE, CBP, Secret Service, and the Navy NCIS, as reported by 404 Media and Senator Ron Wyden. Flock is also expanding its mass surveillance capabilities to include people through a partnership with Amazon Ring and as well as identifying human voices. Anyone with access to the Flock network can search the entire nationwide network, meaning a police department or individual on the other side of the country can perform searches that include the data of Verona residents. Anyone with access is key here because not only have federal agents been caught using local cops' credentials to gain unauthorized access to the network, but contrary to Flock's claims of high security, they don't require multi-factor authentication for their login credentials, and exposed account credentials have already been leaked onto cybercrime forums on the dark web. Verona currently has 4 of these cameras active, monitoring the 4 main arteries into the city: County Highway M from the north, East Verona Avenue near exit 81, West Verona Avenue near exit 76, and County Highway M from the south near the Costco and the power substation. The exact positions of these and other Flock cameras are being mapped by community members nationwide at the website dflock.me, which currently tracks nearly 50,000 of these cameras and shows nearly 24 cameras elsewhere in the Madison area alone. This warrantless mass surveillance is an unconscionable violation of the Fourth Amendment rights of Verona's residents and visitors. In fact, a constitutional lawsuit is currently proceeding in Norfolk, Virginia, challenging these cameras on Fourth Amendment grounds. Is there a point where the ability to prevent and solve crimes outweighs our constitutional rights? I don't think so, but some do. Certainly, Flock's claims that their cameras are instrumental for solving 10% of reported crime nationwide is a striking statistic. But that claim doesn't bear out. Their study saying this wasn't published in a peer-reviewed journal, and one of the authors of the study, Johnny Nahan of Texas Christian University, has since changed his stance. In a quote in an article by Ars Technica, he said, "The information that's collected by the police departments are too varied and incomplete for us to do any type of meaningful statistical analysis on them," end quote. In a way, these cameras make Verona residents and visitors less safe. Senator Ron Wyden and Representative Raja Krishnamurthy have called for a federal investigation into flock safety, with Senator Wyden saying, quote, abuses of flock are not only likely but inevitable, end quote, and that flock, quote, is unable and uninterested in preventing them, end quote. We've seen multiple cases across the country already of abuse of the flock surveillance network, including in Texas, where a woman was tracked possibly across state lines under suspicion of having an abortion, and a woman recently in the Denver area who was accused of package theft for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Indeed, the Electronic Frontier Foundation warned a year ago that these cameras are error-prone and can lead to wrongful detentions. To quote Sarah Hamid with the EFF, when people understand that flock data can be used to track them exercising reproductive freedom or to facilitate federal immigration enforcement, the calculus around public safety technology changes entirely. The location surveillance itself becomes a risk to public safety. Verona will not be alone in removing these cameras. People in at least 7 different states across the political spectrum have successfully gotten these cameras removed. 3 states, Illinois, California, and Virginia, have blocked interstate data searches through new or existing legislation. In one state over, the city of Evanston, Illinois, has terminated their contract for 19 flock cameras earlier this year, citing flock's unlawful disclosure of data to federal agencies in alleged violation of the terms and conditions of their contract. In summary, mass, warrantless, profit-driven surveillance has no place in Verona or indeed any civilized democracy. Flock Safety as a company has demonstrated their untrustworthiness, and the continued use of these cameras in Verona is a danger and potential constitutional violation of every resident and visitor that drives by them. I urge the council to remove these cameras now by opting not to renew our contract with Flock Safety. Thank you, and apologies for going slightly over time.
Thank you. We are still in public comment. If any other speakers wish to speak, now would be the time to do so.
Hello, my name is Isaac Hall, and from what the gentleman just said, I completely support his statements about Flock and how their misuse and abuse of security measures. But I have a few questions for you all. So I've read your meetings and whatnot from recent years and your contracts with Flock. And one of my questions is, how long has Verona had a contract with Flock Security? And does the current budget proposal go for implementing more cameras than the 4 already here? I think that's about all.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so whoever wishes to speak next.
Good morning. It's been a long day. Good evening. My name is Adam Stevenson. I am a Verona resident, and I am speaking tonight in my personal individual capacity. However, by way of background in my areas of expertise, for 15 years I have been a law professor at the University of Wisconsin Law School in the subject matter area of criminal law. I, like my 2 speakers before me, speak to ask the city to end the contract with Flock and to remove any cameras or other infrastructure due to significant privacy concerns, many of which the first speaker discussing Flock covered in quite some depth. Adding some additional legal aspects to the use of these surveillance cameras or ELPR devices, license plate readers. There is frankly quite an open question as to the development in this area under the Fourth Amendment as to whether the use of these cameras, especially at a large number, is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Different circuits have taken different positions on this matter. My understanding upon quick research is that the First Circuit very recently decided that these are in fact violations of the Fourth Amendment under what is known as the Mosaic theory of the Fourth Amendment violation of privacy. Privacy interests used to simply be a matter of property ownership or subjective and objective expectations of privacy. Technology has created a circumstance in which we cannot and will not continue to utilize those methods of analyzing privacy interests under the Fourth Amendment to maintain our civil liberties and privacy under the Fourth Amendment. The Seventh Circuit, in which jurisdiction we sit here in Wisconsin, has had internal debate within the court as to the appropriateness of the use of this type of cameras as well as other forms of surveillance due to the duration as well as the depth of information that has been obtained. And in particular, the aspects that are most troubling with regard to Flock is that the hardware, the software, and much of the data is held in private hands. There are contracts, there are terms of service, but as the first speaker indicated, Flock has had a reported history of allowing for violations of those, both through apparent negligence, but also potentially in willing cooperation with federal law enforcement and or other individuals, private or public. The maintenance of these items in private hands removes the state's authority over its investigative functions and ability to engage in law enforcement activities. And this is the very debate that is ongoing. As one of the speakers indicated, there are active lawsuits involving municipalities for the installation of these cameras in violation of the Fourth Amendment under 1983 civil rights suits. Some of these are not only criminal case matters, these are not only matters of evidence in a criminal case, but these can also result in civil litigation against municipalities for the violation of Fourth Amendment privacy rights, as well as in those criminal cases. There really is no great way to control third parties such as Flock when they maintain the infrastructure as well as data behind these types of services. Flock itself has indicated, as one of the speakers mentioned, that it is going to be cooperating with Amazon Ring. It has also indicated that we will be cooperating with a company called Planeteer, which is a large technology company heavily involved in policing and national security matters and has had some significant media attention paid to it in recent months, given some of its civil liberties concerns. For all of these reasons, again, due to the potential extensive in duration, extensive in location, and extensive in type of data that can be held in the hands of third parties and accessed by any of the number of individuals, I would strongly recommend that the city end the contract with Flock and remove cameras and any other hardware that it maintains in the city limits. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so whoever's next.
Hello, my name is Gary Gabatista. I'm coming here as a resident of Madison that lives nearby to Verona. And I would like to speak against the renewing of the Flock contract and to advocate for their their removal. I would like to emphasize the risks of collecting all of this data, as Flock is fundamentally different than other security cameras or license plate readers. It logs every vehicle's movements, including make, model, color, and other visual indicators like damage, and it stores that data in a centralized database, which can be used with rapid searching of months of life patterns without a warrant using a single login. This is a level of tracking that goes far beyond typical security cameras. And all of that data is also held by a private company, We don't control it, and it already has been unknowingly turned over to third parties. Additionally, data this valuable will be targeted by hackers as regular database breaches continually happen. And once your movement history is exposed, there is no getting it back. The safest measure is to simply never have this data collected in the first place. Every time you pass by one of the Flock cameras, the location, time, and all the details of your car are captured on every trip to work, every time you visit friends, on every errand that you run. And over months, this creates a complete map of your life. And when folks start to feel watched, even unconsciously, they will change how they behave. They might avoid certain places, they might speak up less, and they might feel less connected. And the people who feel it most are usually those that already feel the most scrutinized. That doesn't build community, it tears it apart. And speaking personally, I don't want to feel like a suspect every time I go to the grocery store. And I don't think that most residents of Verona do either. I would like to ask all of you if the fact that an AI-powered surveillance camera network is tracking you makes you feel better or worse about living in Verona. What worries me even more is how Flock can categorize cars by traits that include things like bumper stickers. That means that somebody without a warrant could track large groups of people based on things such as political affiliation or certain identities and use that to target them. I would like to reiterate that I'm not accusing anyone in Verona of any misconduct, but this system can be accessed by police officers nationwide. And even if it is never used that way intentionally, the capability in itself creates the risk. We have to think about what this system enables and who could access it, not just what we hope it will be used for. And honestly, the many scandals that have already happened with Flock cameras do not give me much confidence. Many cities have already rejected Flock, citing a lack of safety improvement. If the benefits are uncertain, but the risks are guaranteed, the responsible choice is to not collect this data at all. I think that this funding should be put towards the things that actually strengthen the community instead of just surveilling it, so that Verona can be the place where people feel comfortable traveling to as themselves. I don't think that constant automatic tracking fits those values, and I don't think that's how most of the residents expects this city to treat them. So I would like to ask to not renew the contract with Flock and remove these cameras, and if we could get rid of the data that already exists, I think that would be great too. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment. If any other members of the public wish to speak?
Good evening. My name is Jenny Nowak, and I'm a longtime Verona resident. My roots here are deep. I work within the community, I shop at our local businesses, and I have established friends and connections throughout this town. I am speaking tonight to urge you to take decisive action. Do not renew the contract with Flock Safety and direct the immediate removal of all associated surveillance cameras. My opposition is rooted in serious concerns about data privacy, security, and the unnecessary risk this technology poses to civil liberties and economic interests of everyone in Verona. Simply put, the costs of this mass surveillance system far outweigh any purported benefit. We must acknowledge that the risks associated with Flock are not theoretical. They are already playing out in other communities across the nation that have canceled or suspended their contracts. Verona should follow suit. Let's talk about those risks a little bit more. First, renewing this contract creates an unacceptable risk of federal agencies gaining unauthorized backdoor access to Verona's local data. Agencies like Border Patrol and Homeland Security can tap into these networks without the knowledge or explicit approval of our local police department. This effectively circumvents local oversight, compromises our control over sensitive resident data, and exposes Verona's citizens to national enforcement priorities that conflict with our community's local values. Verona's data needs to stay in Verona. Second, the sheer amount of data collected by Flock, which is basically your movement history and that of every vehicle in Verona, makes it an attractive target for hackers. The data is incredibly sensitive, and Flock security protocols have been publicly called into question. In fact, on November 3rd, 2025, U.S. Congress formally called on the FTC to investigate Flock safety for its cybersecurity failures. Verona cannot afford to entrust the private, sensitive location data of its residents to a vendor facing federal scrutiny for data insecurity. Finally, this system poses a direct economic risk to our local businesses. Our local economy relies heavily on customers from outside Verona who come here to shop, dine, and use our services. As awareness grows of Flock's pervasive data collection and sharing practices, non-residents may simply choose to avoid Verona, putting our local businesses at risk of losing customers and revenue. The costs in terms of privacy, civil liberties, and economic stability are too high. By not renewing Flock's contract, Verona would join a growing national movement prioritizing the safety and privacy of its residents over unnecessary mass surveillance. I ask the Verona Common Council and the Verona Police Department to uphold the privacy, security, and financial interests of its residents. Refuse to renew this Flock safety contract and direct the immediate removal of all associated cameras. Thank you for your time and your serious consideration.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so whoever's next.
Thank you. My name is Tyler Roberts. I live here in Verona. For a bit of background, I'm a network engineer at Epic, and I'm here to speak about asking for the council to not renew the Flock cameras. The previous speakers have touched on most of my concerns on privacy and Fourth Amendment right violations. I also want to touch on part of the fact that Flock is a venture capital funded private company. That on its own raises data privacy concerns. If someone is investing vast amounts of money with unknown return on your data collection, that should raise concerns for most people. The data that Flock currently captures not too long ago would have required criminal convictions and a warrant to be able to track someone to the level that the Flock cameras do. Having your license plate and every stop that you go around a town tracked down to the time you went, every path you went around your home would be ankle bracelet level convictions, crimes going against a citizen. And this data is being collected into a shared database that, as people have spoken on already, anyone can access. There's nothing stopping someone scorned by putting their former partner's license plate in and tracking them down every stop they go every day in their life, which prior to Flock cameras would have been restraining orders and convictions against the person tracking the data. The minimal amount of oversight in how this data is being handled is also a big concern for multiple citizens, and someone, I believe it was the previous speaker, spoke about their lack of security. As someone who works in networking with data that we have tons of rules and restrictions of everything that we have to access, the lackadaisical way that the Flock handles data is of the utmost concern. And anyone who tells you something is unhackable is lying to you. There is nothing that is on a network that does not have risk. And the fact that this is private data handled by a private company with no oversight of what they have to actually do with the data. There are contracts of how they say they can handle it, but at least on the ones I looked at, it is a gray area at best at how they actually are committing to handle your data. And with them being venture capital funded and Amazon being involved and multiple other third parties, they invest $50 million into this data for an unknown reason. That data has to have a value. Anything that tracks where you go, where you shop, where you stay, where you sleep is pinpoints of who you are as a person, which the wrong person investing in can have unknown consequences for especially disenfranchised citizens and even just regular citizens. I don't want anyone knowing everywhere that I shop. I don't want to start going to a different grocery store and then start getting mailers asking why have you quit going to this grocery store because it was sold to the highest bidder on the third party. And I don't think anyone else should want that either. So that's all that I have that hasn't already been touched on. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so whoever's next.
Good evening, Mayor, Alders, and city staff. My name is Steve Bursell, and I'm president of Fiduciary Real Estate Development. I'm here tonight to confirm that we have asked city staff to temporarily withdraw our applications related to Main Street Station, the development there on what may otherwise be known as the Bacchus property. Simply put, we're tabling our development while we step back and talk further with neighbors that were unable to attend our previous neighborhood meeting held this past summer, as well as those alders who are interested in hearing more. I'd also like to correct a few inaccuracies that have been thrown around during public comment in this venue and at Planning Commission in the last couple of weeks. Fiduciary has been in business for 40 years, and despite claims from certain individuals, we're a local Madison and Milwaukee-based developer focused on multifamily housing with a small footprint outside of Wisconsin. Fiduciary develops, constructs, and then manages the properties ourselves. We then typically hold them long-term. We employ almost 125 people in Dane County alone and manage almost 3,000 apartments in and around Madison, where almost 7,000 of our residents call home. We provide homes and fulfill a niche in today's increasingly unaffordable real estate market, where living in a single-family home is out of reach for most young families. Fiduciary employs hundreds of local subcontractors when we build in your community. Fiduciary is a local business, contrary to how we have been previously characterized as billionaires and hedge funders from out of town, which we are not. Fiduciary, in every sense of the word, is local. I personally invite all of you to tour any of our properties to see for yourselves how we operate our communities and fulfill an important housing need for thousands of families throughout Wisconsin. In the meantime, we will be talking with neighbors and alders about our project and look forward to discussing further with you all in the not-too-distant future. I'm here tonight promising you that we will continue to be a great partner to the city of Verona, much like we have with 18 other communities around Wisconsin. I encourage you all to call those community leaders and ask them about their experience with Fiduciary. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so whoever's next.
Hello, Verona Common Council members. My name is Michael Weideman, and I'm a Verona resident. I'd like you to reject the flock safety contract renewal. The flock camera system does not have sufficient safeguards for resident privacy. Flock aggregates the data and plans to combine it with data from commercial data brokers and even data breaches to allow users to look up the location of people without a warrant. By feeding into their database, we're exposing residents to having their privacy invaded. There are already instances of abuse where officers misinterpret or inappropriately access flock data. Take Denver resident Chrisanna Elser's case, who was falsely accused of stealing a package from a porch and was only exonerated through video evidence from her personal vehicle. Even more worrying, Ketchie police officer Victor Hayer used the system to stalk his ex-wife. Beyond that, as we see the federal government taking increasingly authoritarian and partisan actions, weaponizing previously independent agencies, and reducing oversight, I'm concerned that technology such as this will be used against political opponents. When that happens, it will irreparably damage our democracy. We need to take a stand against it now. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in public comment.
Hello, my name is Nicole McElfresh. I live in Verona. I just wanted to say that I'm really happy about all the affordable housing that you guys are working on. And I have 2 teenagers at home, and I would like them to be able to afford to live in Verona someday. And I really appreciate you guys turning, or approving the projects that turn vacant restaurants and rundown lots into attractive, affordable places for people to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you for signing in too. We are still in public comment. So whoever's next can make their way to the table.
Almost forgot my address for a second. Another flock camera renewal comment. My name is Julia Langton. I'm a Verona resident. Like many others here tonight, I am concerned about data security vulnerabilities in the flock camera systems that could lead to its unauthorized use by non-local entities such as federal agencies and others. This concern is founded on many documented cases of the Department of Homeland Security accessing flock camera data despite local law enforcement's intentions to use the system solely as a crime-fighting measure, as well as vulnerability of the camera systems to hacking by foreign and criminal groups. At the same time, it is also my understanding that there is minimal evidence that flock cameras contribute significantly to minimizing crime or increasing arrest rates. Before Verona makes a decision to renew the flock contract, I urge the council to perform a transparent and evidence-based assessment of its expected benefits and potential risks, and to take all steps necessary to guarantee that data cannot be accessed by non-local entities. If this degree of data security is not possible, and from what I'm hearing tonight, it doesn't sound like it is, I do not support contract renewal. Thanks.
Thank you. We're still in public comment.
Good evening, council members. Andy Slowik here, a 20-year resident of the Verona, city of Verona. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight as a concerned resident and advocate for the community's recreation spaces. I want to address the proposed allocation of $500,000 for a single cement skateboard park and would like to the council to not pass the 2026 budget as it stands due to this. While I recognize the importance of providing quality recreational facilities for our youth, I urge the council to consider the pressing needs for existing parks before committing to such a substantial investment in a single project. Our community is fortunate to have several parks that already serve a wide range of residents, children, families, and seniors alike. However, many of these parks are in desperate need of repairs and upgrades. It's no secret that our established parks face issues such as broken playground equipment, deteriorating basketball, tennis, and pickleball courts, insufficient lighting, and outdated facilities. These problems impact the safety, accessibility, and enjoyment of our public spaces. By directing funds towards maintenance and improvements, we can ensure that all residents benefit, rather than focusing resources on one specialized facility costing the citizens of Verona $500,000 in the 2026 budget. Allocating $500,000 to a single cement skateboard park when multiple parks need attention is not the most responsible use of our limited budget. Improving and maintaining existing facilities will provide a greater value for our community and demonstrate that you are listening to the needs of the majority. My concern that the City Council is not paying attention to local Verona parks became even more relevant when I received an email from a council member stating, as with all facilities, we maintain the courts on a regular schedule to ensure they remain safe and playable. We also carry the appropriate liability insurance coverage. So while we always take safety concerns seriously, we're confident that the courts meet the same standards as other public amenities. When I showed 3 people this email, they all stated, what? The City of Verona would rather pay out for a lawsuit than fix the problem? So let's see how maintained and safe some of the parks are, meeting the same standards as other public amenities I visited several days ago. On the pictures, you'll see that Vandegrift Park, 2 worn down benches that are splintering and falling apart. In fact, mold is even growing on the wood. One of the bench is missing its entire top board for back support. But that is okay, according to this older person, because they apparently meet the standards as other public amenities, and besides, we have liability coverage. Tolson Park, I have no pictures for that, as I did not take pictures because elementary kids were playing currently on the tennis courts. So the tennis courts were full of cracks, and the kids were playing tag, basketball, kickball on a very unsafe surface. Westridge Park, the tennis court has deep, long cracks running through the northernmost court side. In fact, it runs into the adjoining basketball court, making it dangerous to play tennis or basketball. The footings for one of the net posts is heaving up over 1 inch all around the footing, again making a hazard, a trip hazard and safety. In fact, the tennis court is totally unplayable and an injury hazard. The baseball backstop in this park is leaning backwards about 10 degrees, and the different fence sections are moving away from each other, causing a possible collapse. Harriet Park. This is probably the worst park in the city. Look at the horseshoe pits, hidden and overgrown with grass. The backstops for these are falling apart, but that is not the worst part. Look at the 1 to 1.5 foot tall rebar post sticking up, hidden by overgrown grass. Just think about a family outing or graduation party, renting the shelter, and someone running and impaling themselves on these metal posts. In fact, in one picture, it is very, very hard to see the post even before coming to it. Take a look at the old ice skating rink that is there now. Falling apart, large cracks with clumps of grass overgrowing the cracks, causing a trip hazard onto a hard blacktop surface. The pickleball courts are also in terrible shape. Large, long, deep cracks through 3 of the 4 courts make them unusable and unsafe, as the photos show, making the playing surface very dangerous, but they remain open to the public.
You're at about the 5-minute mark.
Pardon me?
You're at about the 5-minute mark.
Okay, all right. That's all you're giving? Okay.
Thank you. We're still in public comment, so whoever else wishes to speak next, now would be the time to do so.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Drusen, and I live in the Scenic Ridge neighborhood of Verona. And I just wanted to bring up a concern that I have about an increased use of non-street legal, non-pedal electric dirt bikes being ridden by children that appear to be about middle school age that I've seen throughout the city. I live in a neighborhood with many children, and I am the father of a small child that enjoys going to the park down the street and playing along the sidewalk and in front of our house. And I've just seen a lot of instances of I've seen for myself instances of children riding unsafely in the streets, riding on the bike paths, riding through the park, while we were playing on the park, and doing dangerous things such as wheelies in the streets, riding tandem on the sidewalks, and riding in the street during busy times. I actually saw one child that was trying to cross Main Street on Park Lane in the morning while I was taking my child to daycare, and just kind of weaving between traffic, and it just seemed very, very unsafe. Somebody might, a skeptical person might say that, well, there's like an increase in electric scooter use by children. I definitely think that, how is this any different? And I think that electric scooters, the size of them limit the case for riding off of paved surfaces, and there's, a lot of them are lit. I haven't seen any examples of these sorts of dirt bikes being lit, and they also seem to be going really, really quickly. My concern mainly is for safety. For the kids that are riding these things, I used to ride bike a lot. And there was about 10 years ago, I was hit by a car while riding my bike, riding legally in the street. So I know, it put me in the hospital. So I know, what this could mean, for people, for kids who are riding things that are moving very quickly and coming into contact with another motor vehicle. It's also for the kids and people that aren't necessarily riding these things, but are trying to also use shared spaces. And, you have children who aren't licensed riding vehicles that are extremely fast and that, to my understanding, are also unlicensed in streets. Just seems to be a concern. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are still in public comment. So whoever's next, make your way to the table.
Hello again. My name is Scott Side. My wife Kelly and I live at 308 Monte Cristo Circle here in Verona. And I'm here again tonight to hopefully bring you a little bit more information about our concerns regarding Fiduciary's proposal to shoehorn another apartment complex into the Bacchus property. Not only does it not make sense from just a common sense perspective, but it's also, as you know, not consistent with the comprehensive plan. My neighbors Bob and Dana have talked a lot about apartment vacancy rates in the area, and I did a little poking around, and because I didn't think it was that important of an issue, but I've changed my mind. I poked around online and found an article from Isthmus just from a few months ago talking about apartment vacancy rates. And I've also talked to a lot of folks in the industry who are familiar with apartment development, and they've been telling me that the market is softening. And in this article, they have this information. I'm not sure where they got it, but it shows in the last year, vacancy rates have increased from about 2% up to clear to 7% in the county. And they interviewed a UW-Madison professor who accredited that to an increase in the number of apartments becoming available because they're building them like crazy, especially in downtown Madison and surrounding communities. I also took a buzz around the downtown area over the lunch hour and found that there are at least 4 cranes operating, building huge apartment buildings. So there's going to be thousands more in the works, which will hopefully continue to soften the apartment market and keep rents pretty steady, which they have been for about the last year. So the reason I bring this up is that I think it's important to keep that in mind as you think about approval of future apartment projects. Not only are there lots of apartments being built now and are being approved and will be in the construction process very soon, but Apex has additional apartments being built now. A recent approval of the apartment complex over by the church is adding another 500 or so. Argus apartments will be another 90, I think. So there's a lot of apartments in the works, plus the RFP that you have working now, which will be another 350 to 500. And according to the publications I've seen from both Dane County and from the city of Verona, the target number of residential units that Verona should be adding to keep up with the population is about 200 units per year. So you're far exceeding that, and I think that's good reason to think carefully about adding even more apartments than necessary. I'm getting close to running out of time, so I want to show you a couple of things real quick, and a couple of you have seen this already. This is a view from the hill at the back of my house. This is my wife Kelly and my awful dog Gary, and this is approximately where the closest building would be according to Fiduciary's plan, which is 90 feet from my backyard line. And to give you an idea of what we would have expected, this is what we relied upon, based upon the comprehensive plan, is a single-family home about there. What Fiduciary is proposing is that. And if many of you have been to our house and have been in the yard and have seen what that would do to the neighborhood, and it's not good. And if you want a real-life example of what that might look like, I encourage you to stand next to the theater building on the sidewalk and look across to the Lincoln Street Apartments. From the sidewalk across the street to the Lincoln Street Apartments is 90 feet.
So you're at
Yep,
5 minutes.
got it. So that should give you an idea of what to expect. I appreciate your time. I'll have more information for you in a couple of weeks and encourage you to come out. Thanks.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so.
Good evening. My name is Patrick McElfresh. I'm a resident of Verona, and I live on North Edge Trail. I would like to, like my wife, speak in favor of affordable housing and thoughtful development. We are one lot from the corner on North Edge Trail where the old barn used to stand and now is a bunch of buildings, or a building. I believe that has actually cut down on my noise because of shielding me from not North Edge Trail, that's where I live. Pleasant View, and I'd also like to add that we shouldn't be planning for Verona to stay the same size and replace what housing is needed and stay the same, we should anticipate growth. Dane County is one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing area in Wisconsin, and we need to build to support that. I would advocate for it to be thoughtful and conscientious, but we do need to accommodate people who need houses. My wife and I started off in a one-bedroom condo. We had 2 children, not the best plan, but we made do in a low-cost housing until we could afford something better, and we moved to Verona. We're very glad that we did, but we do need to give people that option and that chance. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. Going once, going twice? Okay. With that, we will conclude public comment for this item. We will have the budget hearing in a few moments. Next, we'll move on to item 5, which is approve the minutes from the October 27th, 2025 council meeting. Questions, comments, corrections, or motions to approve? Alder Swanson.
Move to approve.
Motion by Alder Swanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. Last chance for corrections. Seeing no corrections, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the October 27th, 2025 common council meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. Next up, we'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. First up, we have 6A, which is an update on the Badger Prairie Needs Network with Bob Cachetta, the BPNN president. Mr. Cachetta.
Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity always to visit with you. First thing I want to do is very sincerely thank you for your support. The city of Verona is a place that I've lived for decades and have had the opportunity to serve in a lot of different capacities. And I am so proud of being here. And I'm so proud of the leadership of this community. It's every day. This morning, your fine staff, along with senior leadership, and the chamber leadership met with some of our folks to talk about how we might work together. I was briefed on that this afternoon. Terrific meeting. Your police department did a Stuff the Squad recently and raised literally a ton of food for us to give away. Last week, members of this council came together to stand in support of SNAP benefits to be sure that we didn't lose sight of the fact that there are people in this community who suffer. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Your financial contributions are very much appreciated. For those that aren't terribly familiar with it, let me just very briefly tell you, Badger Prairie Needs Network is located at 1200 East Verona Avenue. We have a 25,000 square foot building, a little more than that. We started out with a 9,000 square foot building and we've added to it multiple times with substantial building projects, not because we wanted to grow a dynasty, but because the need continues to increase. And so now we have a very substantial warehouse facility that permits us to sometimes serve as a regional feeder for other food pantries. We have got the capacity to buy in bulk, which permits us to make the most use of the contributions that people in the community make. We have got staff space for offices so that we can increase the programs. Our biggest effort is the food pantry, but we provide other social services. We have, for example, offices which were built into our latest expansion for Joining Forces for Family, the county social workers. And they spin off a lot of legal work to a group of lawyers I've compiled, all of whom do pro bono work. In fact, one of the things that makes Badger Prairie Needs Network so unique is that we are made up of an entirely volunteer base. No, we don't have any payroll. If you look at our budget, there is not a line item for payroll. There is no payroll. Everybody's a volunteer. We have over 1,100 volunteers. And I know sometimes people think about volunteerism and they say, oh, aren't they well-intentioned hobbyists? No, we are not. I tell you this, we could not pay for the kind of service we get. The people who are leading us are people with really wonderful skills. Our food pantry director is somebody who was an executive at Pampered Chef. Our communications director is somebody who was a communications director for the state of Wisconsin. We've got people who fit those niches exceedingly well and do very high-level work. So you can be sure that our community can be proud of the work that's being done. Now, let me just speak very briefly about what we're going through. None of us knows where this will end. The Senate acted over the weekend to presumably open the government. We don't know what that means for SNAP benefits. We're hearing indirectly that it's going to be, there'll be some delay. But what we have seen over the last several weeks is a significant uptick in our guest population. We're getting more and more families coming to us. And we are also seeing something that is quite remarkable but not surprising for Verona and Dane County. We're seeing a substantial uptick in contributions. So what we've experienced is the capacity to provide greater support for the people who need it the most in our community. Now, I would like to say this as well. Sometimes I think there's a conventional notion that the people who go to a food pantry are somehow lesser or different. They're not. They're us. The people who come to our food pantry, generally, the majority, a vast majority of them hold jobs. Many of them hold 2 jobs. They work in our community. They have children, their families. In addition to that, the people who come to our food pantry are not there every single week, which is also another thing that I sometimes hear from folks who say they have some criticisms. We have less than 3 visits per year on average for the people who come to the food pantry. These are people who are in need. Now, we're on track this year to serve more than 100,000 guests. And so the need is substantial, and it's not the same people again and again and again. That's really important as you think about what role the city of Verona will play in communicating its support for this program. It's been a program that's grown. I actually was on the city council, and it was my motion to provide the space for the then Verona Area Needs Network on the lower level of the library. And it was almost unanimous. There was one dissenter. So it's a long tradition. I mean, it's a long time ago. And the city of Verona has been supportive ever since. Now, I'd be glad, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you've got a full agenda. I'd be glad to address any questions, but I mostly want to be here to thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cachetta? Alder Tucker-Long, then Alder Hunke.
If the people who are listening right now want to get involved or want to help, what should they do?
Thank you. The most important thing is cash. It really is. It permits us to leverage those dollars into more substantial buying power. We can, just for example, get a can of tuna for about 50 cents. And if we go through a general operating purchase, it's $1.25. So if somebody goes out and buys a can of tuna and brings it in, that's marvelous. And we are grateful for all gifts. I don't mean to disparage any of them. But if we get cash, we can leverage that into greater financial resources than a gift of food. Yeah, thank you.
Alder Hunke.
That was generally my question. But I do know that there is, what you spoke about, there's going to be an effort collectively throughout our community to collect food as an option. And do you have any information that you could speak to? I know that our communications manager is going to be publishing that on our social media, but would you like to share any bit of that now? Are you able to?
I don't know. I know that was one of the things discussed this morning at the meeting, and I don't have the details. And I'll get yelled at if I go back to my volunteers and I get it wrong.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last chance for questions for Mr. Cachetta. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, we will move on to item 7, which is announcements. Any announcements from the council? Alder Tucker-Long.
Staff anniversary cards are going around, so make sure you sign them before you go.
Any other announcements from the council? Seeing no announcements, we'll move on to item 8, which is the administrator's report. Mr. Olick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only one thing. I think the squad that took in the ton of food was on its axles as it went over to donate it at the BPNN. But no, it's great partnership. I was one of the people meeting with them today. I think we have a really nice program that we're going to be rolling out here real soon. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Olick? Seeing no questions, we move on to item 9, the engineer's report. Ms. Fisher.
I have no major updates tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fisher? Okay. We'll move on to item 10, which is committee reports. First up, we have 10A Finance Committee. Alder Humke.
Yeah, thank you. I make a motion for payment of the bills in the amount of $3,028,681.05.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Humke.
Yeah, we have a handful of large payments this week. The first is to AECom for engineering services in the amount of $212,941. To the City of Madison for the fourth quarter Madison Metro services for $634,972. To James Peterson Sons, Inc. for the Mark Drive construction for $321,414. To the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District for the third quarter sewer services payment of $539,553. And to Parisi Construction for the Legion Street intersection for $325,219.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Humke.
I move to approve resolution number 25-031, approving
I'm going to
the,
interrupt quick. We should go to the public hearing for it
sorry.
first. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing regarding the 2026 City of Verona budget.
I make a motion to open the hearing for the 2026 budget.
Motion by Alder Humke to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Weiss. All those in favor of opening the public hearing on the 2026 City of Verona budget signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And we are now in the public hearing for the 2026 City of Verona budget. So if anyone wants to comment on the 2026 City of Verona budget, you can do so now. All right. I guess we got our public comments already. Seeing no one approaching the table, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this topic.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Swanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. All those in favor of closing the public hearing on the 2026 City of Verona budget signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that topic is concluded. Alder Humke.
I move to approve resolution number 25-031, approving the 2026 City of Verona budget.
Before there's a second, I do have one quick question for either Mr. Aulick or Mr. Lamers. If the City of Verona were to change the, and I'm not saying necessarily that would be the council's decision, but if we were to change the compensation and benefits package for police sergeants, would we be able to do that if the budget has passed already, or would we have to amend the budget? Mr. Aulick?
Mr. Mayor, I think we could pass the budget and account for it at a future meeting if we needed to amend it again.
If the council decided to?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear. All right. Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Lytle. Alder Humke.
The 2026 budget process has been a collaborative effort by staff, alders, and Mayor Diaz to invest in the City of Verona, and staff respectfully request approval of the 2026 budget.
Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Alder Humke.
I just want to reiterate the amount of time that goes into this process and would encourage folks in the future to come earlier on. I will say that I have communicated with several folks via email about this. We do have agendas that are published publicly. We meet toward the end of the summer months, and if you would like to come and listen or give public comment on areas of the budget, those topics are covered, are listed in the agenda. So if you want to come and talk, listen to parks, public works, whatever, what have you, those topics are listed in those agendas. You can see specifically what we are speaking about at any given point in time. You can always reach out to your alders as well if you have comments. They're much easier to incorporate earlier on in the cycle than later on in the cycle. So I'm really proud of this budget. When you look around at different municipalities in the state of Wisconsin and probably around the country, we are having a lot of issues. Municipalities are having a lot of issues with expenses on the rise, revenues not meeting those expenses. We have shared revenue from the state that's allocated differently for different types of municipalities depending on where you live in the state and who represents you. And the revenues just are not meeting the moment right now. And so we've had to take really significant collective action in understanding what's happening and what the needs are of our community. There were positions that we were not able to fill. There were requests that were not be able to made that we moved to different years. There is a document that resides online that you can read. I think it's really well done. I'm really proud of it. And it explains the different components of the budget, what they offer, what purposes each of the respective departments, what their goals are for 2026, what they've accomplished in 2025. Our directors are really incredible. It was mentioned earlier how incredible our staff is at the city, and I second that wholeheartedly. We have incredible people that work here, and they do a lot with as much as they were able to give them. If you look around at other municipalities, they have raised their taxes above the levy limits, which is allowable. Up to a certain point. We have not done that here. There's other municipalities who have registration taxes, which some people, vehicle registration taxes, which are also referred to as wheel taxes. Fitchburg recently adopted that, $40 a car. I just want to remind people that we don't have that either. We are fiscally responsible. I'm very proud of that. And I just want to make sure that people understand that our priority is to the taxpayers, the people who vote for us to be here and act responsibly. In my day job, I do accounting and finance. It's a background that I'm really proud of to bring to this council and to chair the finance committee in this way. And I really have to give a huge shout to Mr. Lamers, who is our finance director. He is incredible in terms of managing the requests that come in, navigating all that. It's not easy to do that with a city of this size. And to Mr. Olick, who supports that effort. So really just want to shout out everybody in the process of doing this and making sure that we are providing a tax that's reasonable. It's at the levy limit that we have been allotted, and I'm really proud of it.
Other questions or comments? I got Alder Swanson, then Alder Lytle, and then myself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is probably best answered by either of the representatives for parks. But addressing the concerns that I believe he's a resident in my district, that one of the speakers raised earlier about the expenditure on skate park. It's my understanding that we do have plans within the next 2 years under the draft capital improvement plan that was, I believe, passed as well, to address some of those parks that do need resurfacing across the next 2 to 3 years. Can either of you clarify that and confirm that?
Alder Tucker-Lund.
Yeah, we have a rotating maintenance plan for parks. We do also go out every spring to evaluate and check for maintenance issues. Winters are very hard on our parks, especially on paint and things like that. We do try to go out and repair anything that's broken. And if anybody notices anything, we do encourage you to report it to us. You can report it to me. I'm on the Parks Commission, or you can report it directly to our Parks Director as well. But we do make attempts to get out and fix things as fast as we can. We are limited in our budget, of course, but there are a number of things that we have on the docket, and we do, as I said, try to get out and replace all the equipment in the parks. I believe it's on a 10-year cycle.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Okay.
I got Alder Lytle, myself, then Alder Helmke.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely don't want to restate some of the comments that Alder Helmke made, but I have to agree. This is my second year serving on the Finance Committee, and the budget is a huge undertaking. It involves a lot of discussion with staff and department heads, a lot of engagement with the community, but there's always more opportunities for that, and we would love to take those kind of comments as the budget's coming together, really any time in the process. But for myself personally, I don't love every single item in the 2026 budget. I wish some of the line items for things were higher and others were lower. But we worked collaboratively. We balanced many competing requests. And I also know that the time I spent on it is only a fraction of the time that the chair, Alder Helmke, has spent both fielding citizen comments, responding to them, and really agonizing over many of the details that honestly, myself and some of the rest of the members of the council just kind of take for granted. So I want to, in addition to thanking the people she did, thank her for her leadership on that committee.
I have myself, Alder Keller, then Alder Humke. Yeah, I just want to say every municipal budget is tough. We are in good shape right now, but I feel like every community in Wisconsin is kind of on a knife edge. And to kind of echo a little bit what Alder Helmke said, I think the city of Verona is lucky not to have a vehicle registration fee, otherwise known as a wheel tax, or to have had to have us go to the voters to ask to exceed the levy limit. If you were to look at the other cities, not Madison, but the other neighbors to Madison, you would see that our mill rate stacks up comparably, which is the rate you pay per thousand of assessed property value. And like home values are very high everywhere. So I don't even think you could say, well, the mill rate's lower in Verona because our house values are so high. I think they're really high everywhere. So I think the city of Verona is offering a good deal to its residents. I just want to say that the budget, of course, because it's on such a knife edge, there had to be compromises. You know, if we add a police officer, that means we're not adding someone to parks. If we were to add a position to Public Works, that means maybe we're not adding something to the fire department. And we all have to work hard to balance all these things while also not borrowing too much money. State law, at least in my opinion, incentivizes cities to borrow money. And that works out really well in the short term, but long term it's bad because ultimately all of it has to be paid back. And with the rising interest rates, I don't think it's a good idea. So there's definitely some things we could have done by taking on more debt, and the council, or at least the finance committee, wisely decided not to do that. And if you look at our debt, like the total amount of money the city owes, it's been going down since 2019, even as the city has grown. Of course, it is going to bounce back up when we have to build a new public works building, but it should be going down in between the big expenditures. So I do feel like we're being extremely fiscally disciplined and very careful. I am frustrated we can't pay for more stuff in the parks. I'd love to see the pickleball carts being used. I've never played. I have a paddle and ball. I have never played. I want to get out there, but I think it's just really hard when we have to balance all these things out. We currently have a skate park that I don't want to say isn't safe, but it needs some maintenance. And this is the $500,000 for the skate park is maintenance to basically make something better and safer for the people who use it. And we just have to kind of balance all these different users. And it's very frustrating to me because there's a lot of money on higher levels of government sloshing around that we don't have access to, which, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done at the state and federal level, but if we had the money, it could do a lot of good in our community. So again, I think this budget overall is good. I'm frustrated some of my own priorities got X'd out, but that's just part of the process as well. But that's all I have to say. Alder Keller, then Alder Helmke.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all of their hard work on the budget. It's my first budget that I've ever worked on and had the opportunity to comb through, and I was really impressed. I don't want to belabor the point about the parks, but I know it's a hot issue for a lot of people in the community. I thought it might be helpful in doing some digging and reaching out to some of my fellow alders. Alder Tucker Long, I was hoping that maybe you could speak a little bit more about the history of the skate park, just because I know I learned that this has been in the works for a long time and was hoping you could kind of put that into some perspective about just like the cost of building a park like that, because it's concrete, that it's more than just buying a park bench.
Yeah, go if you could answer that.
So the skate park has been in the plans for at least 4 years now. That's when I got involved in the process. It possibly predated my involvement, but I can attest to at least 4 years of a new skate park being planned. Our current skate park is metal forms. They're very rusted. We've had to remove several of them because they've become too dangerous. And so there's not much of the skate park left at this point that we've been able to keep for safety reasons. The company that made the original skate forms that we have is no longer in business and has not been in business for well over a decade. And these kind of metal forms are not recommended for use in most areas, and especially not in areas with the temperature shifts and the snow and salt usage that we have here. So the only recommended kind of skate park up in our area is a cement one at this point. It's going to be much more durable. If we had put in a cement skate park, 20 years ago when we put this one in, or 12 years ago, 15, it was after I moved here, but before I got involved in city council, so I don't know the exact date. But if we had put a cement park in at that point in time, we would still have a usable skate park now. And so our goal is to replace the very, very close to dangerous, unsafe park with a long-lasting, durable skate park. We have tried to be as frugal as possible. Cement is very expensive and continues to get more expensive every year. And so just the cost of the materials is very expensive. However, we're working with some great people, and we're going to find a way to make a really creative park on a very small budget. I know it sounds like $500,000 is a lot, but when you're talking about building a park, it's really not. It's a very, very low amount. In fact, we had originally asked for $1 million, but have tried to pare it down to $500,000 just because budgets have been so tight the last few years that we really can't afford to put any more into this. If you take a look at other communities around us, many other communities have been updating their skate parks as well. It's just sort of that time when everybody's parks were getting too unusable. And they have seen usage increase dramatically after doing their reconstructions. And I know that we have been getting complaints about our skate park for years, and we have a number of people who are very excited about getting involved. And I guess on that note, if anyone out there is interested in getting involved, please get in touch with me. We are putting together some focus groups to talk about things, so happy to get your feedback on them. So, did that answer all your questions?
Yeah, thank you so much for giving that added color. I just thought it might be helpful for everyone to hear a little bit more, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about how it came to be. So thank you.
Alder Helmke.
I was raising my hand in regard to Alder Swanson, so I'm good. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to comment on the budget? Seeing no further discussion from the council, all those in favor of resolution number 25-031, approving the 2026 City of Verona budget, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Helmke.
I move to approve resolution number 25-032, approving the levying of property taxes for city purposes.
Motion by Alder Helmke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Helmke.
The proposed levy is $18,633,800, and staff respectfully request approval.
Questions or comments on the motion regarding the levy? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number 25-032, approving the levying of property taxes for city purposes, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Helmke.
I move to approve the agreement for the 2026 and 2027 Information Technology Managed Services, DeKind Computer Consultants, subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and the city attorney.
Motion by Alder Helmke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Helmke.
The City of Verona contracts out its information technology service and support needs for multiple departments, totaling approximately 90 full-time equivalent staff across 5 locations. The city issued a request for proposals on August 6, 2025, and received 7 responses. On October 6, 2025, city staff interviewed 3 finalist firms and recommended an agreement with DeKind Computer Consultants. DeKind's proposed service costs fall within the amount allocated for this activity in the 2026 budget. Staff had conducted a number of reference checks, all were positive. Staff also drafted a managed services agreement, which is close to completion, and recommended approval subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and the city attorney.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Helmke.
I would just like to make a comment of what was said in finance today, and that was from Assistant City Administrator. She just had mentioned that when in the process of the interviews that this company stuck out to the staff amongst all the companies that were interviewed. And then when, I think it's understating the reference checks, it was like glowing reviews. So this wasn't just a positive review that this organization is doing really great things. They're not based here in Verona, but they will be coming up for 8 hours a week once the project once the contract is signed. And I'm very excited about this starting. We've been talking about this for a while, and I really appreciate the work that staff has put into this to make it happen.
Thank you. Alder Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the risk of asking an incredibly stupid question, for clarification, the 90 full-time staff refers to City of Verona staff, not the contracted service personnel, right?
Oh, yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was pretty sure, but the text was not clear.
Other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the agreement for the 2026 and 2027 Information Technology Managed Services to Kind Computer Consultants with the conditions specified signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Humke.
I have to think about how we worded this. Okay. I am moving to deny the use of $20,000 from the fire department fund balance to apply towards a consultant regarding the combined fire and EMS district.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. Alder Humke.
Yeah, so in ongoing discussions with the city of Fitchburg and the village of Oregon on forming a combined fire and EMS district, consultants were discussed for technical items which potentially include accounting or finances, labor and employment law, overall legal formation of the district, among potential other items. The request was to ensure funds are authorized for a consultant in the event there is need to use them, but the finance committee voted 2-1 to oppose the use of the funds.
Thank you. I guess I'll call on myself as well. As you know, I've been negotiating with the City of Fitchburg and the Village of Oregon regarding a potential joint fire and EMS district. We currently have a joint EMS district with the City of Fitchburg, the Town of Verona, and us, and a separate city fire department. As part of the ongoing negotiations, it came to a point where I believe our counterparts at the Village of Oregon and the City of Fitchburg wanted to hire a consultant to design out the district. Speaking for myself, again, as you know, don't really like spending for studies if I don't know if we're going to use them or not. And I don't think we should concede to a consultant what the district should look like. And then you throw in the fact that I'm not even necessarily sure a joint EMS fire district is the best thing for the city of Verona because we don't know what it looks like. And it's really hard for me to justify up to $20,000 for a district that might not even make sense for the city of Verona to join. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And that was the information I brought to the Finance Committee. I'm happy to answer questions or hear other comments or questions. Alder Weiss and Alder Lytle.
What's driving the proposal? Like, who's on the other side of this?
It is the mayor of Fitchburg and the village president of Oregon. I don't want to speak for anyone, but so this is just my own suspicion, I guess. But at least one of the other communities has run into budget trouble, and they need to expand their fire department. They cannot expand their fire department because the referendum to exceed the levy limit failed. If they were to form a fire district or a joint EMS fire district, they could exceed the levy limit without going to referendum. They've been quite transparent that that's one of the appeals of the system, that they would be able to hire 5 new firefighters. I question whether it's in the best interest of the people who live in Verona to fund firefighters in another community, especially if it's to exceed the levy limit. And so that's, again, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but that's my impression. And again, I'm definitely open to a district if it provides better fire care or can save some money with the same amount of quality of service. But I guess I've had my doubts. I always think it's worth talking to people, but I've had my doubts about some of the motivations.
So it sounds like you're saying that that this would be too early in the process to make it worthwhile to spend the money on a consultant to draw up a district if we're not even sure if the district makes sense in and of itself. Okay, thank you.
Alder Lytle and Alder Humke.
So I was the vote for at least the allocation of the money. restating that I am the City of Verona's elected official that is on the Fitch-Verona EMS District Commission. I believe quite strongly that the City of Verona has benefited from being part of that joint EMS district. Like the rest of you, I would be very disappointed in spending $20,000 and finding recommendations that we don't incorporate. I see many benefits to staying engaged and having the ability to chip in on a study like this. From a financial standpoint, I think it's questionable to me that we would get purely unbiased estimates from our own fire staff in terms of costs for maintaining our own fire department versus a joint version. I have my own doubts about consultants, but I do believe they would do their best to disclose the assumptions they make in some of these financial and accounting analyses. Similarly, in my opinion, the City of Verona was not served terribly well by the formula being used previously. So participating in the study might give us more opportunities to be at the table in the development of any kind of potential funding formulas. And then finally, you know, the flexibility that a potential combined fire and EMS district would give us in terms of trying to increase efficiencies by joining forces with other districts while maintaining a similarly high level of service that the Fitch-Verona EMS has provided, I think have a lot of upsides. And for me, all those things make a $20,000 investment, while not insignificant, have a lot of potential upsides and keep us at the table to more strongly advocate, provide greater oversight of the consultant deliverables and analysis than it would if we were to sit on the sidelines until some of these other decisions were made. Thank you.
Alder Helmke.
Yeah, so I think my concern comes from similarly aligned to the mayor's in terms of, you've heard me just speak about the finances and how prudent we are with our financial situation. I have concerns over a district that, you know, currently our fire department is overseen by us as a city level. When you move to a district model, you lose capacity to direct what happens at that model. And I think it's worked fine for the EMS district. I worry that when if a larger district was formed, that would have more significant financial impact to our bottom line, that if we lose sufficient control over that, that we could be at risk of the district expanding the budget to a point that we're not comfortable with. We've seen that the cost of equipment has gone up exponentially, fire trucks, ambulances, but also, you know, just the cost of personnel. So I too do not want to undertake personnel for our community that we are not actually benefiting from. And so at the moment, I personally feel like we could use the skill sets of the chiefs that are running these departments to get the information that we might need to move forward. I worry that a consultant would just give us an answer that we've already decided on, which is, again, $20,000 is a lot of money, and I just don't feel comfortable spending that.
Alder Swanson.
Thank you. I have two questions. I'm not really sure who to direct them to, but I think Alder Lytle might be the best perspective. But if anyone else has comments on them, they're welcome to. So the first question is, what mechanisms do we have to sort of pursue this exploration of a district on our own without getting an outside consultant? Like, to what degree can we explore that in-house before we need to ask someone outside?
You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I will answer by deferring to the mayor, who has participated in the discussions to this point.
I think what we would do is we would talk to Mr. Lamers, our finance director, Chief Mahaka, and Chief Anderson of the Fitch-Verona EMS, and just kind of get them all together, talk about it with their counterparts in Oregon and Fitchburg, and just say, what would the department look like, and try to hash it out from there. And what would the expense and everything else. I think we would want, I think I would want, I guess, a funding formula that is fair to the city of Verona, and we don't get hosed like we got for so long with the Fitch-Verona EMS district.
All right, thank you. And then so question number 2 is, should we further on down the line decide that we are more interested, how easy is it to revisit this allocation of $20,000 or more or less, depending on the needs at the time, to say, hey, we are interested in this now? Is there a reason that we'd have to do this, that we'd have to allocate the money now, that we couldn't do it further on down?
We could do it further on down. I guess the reason it's being brought up is because we were asked by our 2 negotiating partners. I guess I would ask Mr. Lammers or Mr. Aulick, this would be considered a budget amendment, and if it's a budget amendment, it would take 6 votes to amend the budget after it's passed. Or, I suppose our attorney's not in the audience.
Currently, right now, the fire department has a fund balance that could cover this.
Okay, so then a simple majority.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. That answers my questions.
Other questions or comments on the motion to deny this funding? Seeing no fire discussion, all those in favor of denying the use of the $20,000 from the fire department fund balance to apply towards a consultant regarding the combined fire EMS district signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no?
No.
And that motion passes 7-1 with Alder Lytle voting no. Where are we? Anything further from finance?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll move on to 10B, which is Personnel Committee. Alder Humke.
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF Local 311 Unit, the Local 311 Unit for 2026 through 2028.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Humke.
Members of International Association of Firefighters, Local 311, and staff have reached a tentative agreement. The agreement proposes the following changes. Creates Section 7.11 Acting Officer Pay. When the chief or the chief's designee determines that it is necessary to assign an apparatus engineer or inspector to the temporary position of acting officer or a lieutenant inspector to temporarily fill the position of battalion chief, that person shall receive a stipend of $1 per hour defined for purposes of acting officer compensation. Numbers holidays such as 4th of July or Christmas to match the non-represented handbook, example, July 4th and December 25th, adds an additional personnel day to make the amount equivalent to the non-represented staff. It modifies vacation earnings to make them equivalent to the sworn battalion chiefs. It increases the annual uniform allowance from $400 a year to $500 a year and changes the maximum carryover related to uniform allowances from $800 to $1,000. The proposed wage increases for 2026, 2027, and 2028 are 8%, 6%, and 2% respectively, which is a market adjustment similar to the recent compensation study for non-represented employees in order to retain and attract high-quality employees. The proposed agreement is a 3-year agreement. Staff and representatives of Verona firefighters worked cooperatively on the collective bargaining agreement. The Personnel Committee unanimously recommended approval, and staff also recommended approval.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Humke.
I'm just going to say I'm really proud of the staff for making this happen. My understanding is everybody's happy with this, which is always a win-win when it doesn't have to go to arbitration. So for those of you who aren't aware, we've done a compensation study. We also had given staff, so because this is a collective bargaining agreement, the firefighting staff that fell into this were not eligible for the adjusted compensation that was made in last year, which was 7%. Is that correct? Right. So this is sort of just a catch up to make sure that their wages are in alignment with everybody else's. And I'm really glad we were able to do that. So thank you.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 311 Unit for 2026 through 2028, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Humke.
I make a motion, move to amend the city administrative policy number 4, section 3, relating to compensation and benefits for police sergeants.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second? Second by Alder Tucker Long. Alder Humke.
The proposed amendment eliminates eligibility for police sergeants to receive an additional education incentive as an add-on to their salary. As part of the recent classification and compensation study, the consultant recommended eliminating the additional education incentive add-on for police sergeants because education was already accounted for in the job requirements and scoring of the position. The proposed change aligns with the updated classification and compensation plan that was previously adopted and goes into effect on December 22nd, 2025.
Questions or comments on this motion? I do have one question, and then Alder Swanson. So just so I'm clear on this, the officers who are part of the bargaining unit, they do get a bonus for, do they get an education bonus?
So are you talking about the represented law enforcement officers or the sergeants who are non-represented?
The represented.
Yes, so they have an educational incentive included in the collective bargaining agreement. And per administrative policy number 4, section 3, right now, the police sergeants also have the education incentive as part of that, as part of our policies.
Right, so I guess then if we were to make this change, if a represented officer got promoted to a sergeant, they would lose this bonus.
That is correct.
Okay.
But they would also go into grade 11 on our compensation scale, which is where the police sergeants are currently.
Okay. Alder Swanson, and then Alder Tucker Long.
So, and then the proposed language modifies them to instead going to grade 13? Sorry, I was looking at it earlier and I thought that's what it said. So what?
So what you're effectively doing with this, with what's proposed tonight, is to remove the educational incentive from the compensation package for police sergeants. And that is because, as part of the compensation study that we've passed, passed in our implementing, in late December, that education has already been accounted for in that new classification study. So as part of scoring a police sergeant position, the education is already accounted for, and so they would not receive that percentage add-on as part of their compensation because of that.
Alder Tucker Long, then Alder Weiss.
Yeah, am I able to ask Sergeant Lovell some questions?
I guess, are they strictly clarification?
Yeah.
And if he's willing to answer. I guess, Officer Lovell, are you willing to answer some questions?
Sure.
Okay. But try to keep it neat and narrow.
Okay. In your comments earlier, you said that having the educational bonus taken away would decrease the amount of pay significantly over the course of years. I'm wondering if you can clarify what you meant by that.
So when you have the educational incentive, there's basically a compounding interest, if you will, on it, where currently, based on the CBA, it's 8% for a bachelor's degree. If you have a master's degree or higher, it's higher percentage. But that 8% is always applied after your cost of living adjustment. So if you're making a certain amount, in 2026, there's the cost of living adjustment, and the 8% is on top of that cost of living adjustment. So there's, and understandably, there's some concern there with a catch-up to my superiors that, okay, you're making more. Base-wise, I'm not. The argument that's been there is the overtime that sergeants get. And we do make more than the lieutenants because we work more hours throughout the year based on overtime. So that's where the education plays out in losing money over the years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. So I'm wondering, though, because if we're putting them into a class that's already supposed to account for this, how would they be losing money? Like,
That particular, well, I guess how I respond to that, Alder Tucker Long, is they've been treated very fairly over the last few years. And when put into a market study, we found that, they're basically at the top of their scale. And so this is basically, correcting, what is very fair compensation for them. And anyway, I would also go back to they don't get the increases that the represented staff do as well. So if we kind of go back a little bit in history here, in 2023, the represented officers got a 2.5% raise, and non-reps got 3%. And then again in 2024, the represented officers got a 2.5% raise again, and they would have had a 7% raise as a non-rep. So they kind of, in the formulation of how their position is kind of formulated, it kind of was, as it was described to me, they get kind of the best of both worlds. They get kind of the fringe benefits of represented officers, and they get, in some cases, the compensation and raises that the non-reps get. So anyway, what I would reply to that is, this compensation study takes into account the fact that it puts them all, we did multiple, as you know, communities and looked at their police sergeants and how they were compensated and basically where they're placed in grade 11. And we're making even an exception for them to put them at the very top of the scale through the compensation study. They're being compensated according to the market.
And do you know how much money we're talking about here, as far as like how much they would be getting, not how much they'd be getting now, but like the variance that we're talking about?
Mr. Lamers?
I don't.
or-
Like, if they were to continue at their current with the education bonus versus with the new compensation study, I forget what they're called, classes, levels, whatever? Grades, thank you. How much money are they losing, and/or what's the difference between those? Okay. Okay.
I can only tell you what I recall. It was very close to be, year over year, pretty close in numbers, but I don't have the exact figures in front of me.
You're saying that the two different types of payment sort of even out, is what you're saying?
They were close.
close.
It is true that they are getting paid less, projected next year than this year, but I don't remember exactly how much. I don't know if you know sergeant level what the difference is.
Yeah, well, depending on how you actually calculate it, I'm based on paper if you're looking at it, and assuming, I think the 2.5% cost of living, based on my current salary, not knowing what the non-adjusted grade would be, it's about $600 less on paper. But if you actually look at how the educational incentive is calculated, it actually comes out closer to 3,000. But that, it all depends on how that grade would be adjusted with not taking the education into consideration. And the other fact I would just say on that is, while yes, we're making that exception for a bachelor's degree, there's no longer an encouragement to go get a master's degree as a supervisor here, because there was an educational incentive, an extra, I think, 2 to 3%, I believe it's 2%, that you could have got if I went and got a master's degree. So there was some encouragement there. And that's what you're losing for future people. Short term, it's not a
Thank
huge
you.
difference.
Was that just about compensation? Did that answer your question?
Sorry.
Thank you. Anything further, Alder Tucker-Long?
No, nothing further now.
Okay, I got Alder Weiss, then myself.
And then I just had a clarification question, and I think that my question got answered. So I was originally reading this as an education incentive, as in like, go back to school and we'll pay for so much of it kind of thing. This is like actually an add-on to the
Correct.
base rate of pay.
This is a percentage, whatever your level of accreditation is a percentage in the collective bargaining agreement, and that gets multiplied to your base rate.
Okay.
Yep, it's an add-on.
And then is it typical for non-represented officers like sergeants to get that kind of educational incentive? Is that like to other, in the compensation study, is that a part of the compensation package of officers in similar police departments, like other communities?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm on.
So they just did like total comp. They're saying that we're in line with and at the top of the same range.
For
but-
police sergeants in other cities, yes, we're very comparable.
Okay, and then I'm just going to ask you to clarify this one more time. So even with the elimination of the educational incentive, we're still aligned with other communities, and for sergeants, we're near the top of that grade?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, calling on myself. What are the educational requirements for being a police sergeant?
In the current job description, it's a bachelor's degree or equivalent experience.
Okay. I guess seeing the costs, we can afford it. And I think hearing from sergeant level, I think this changed my mind in between the personnel committee and now. And I think that we should restore the educational benefit. I think the city benefits from having officers who go above and beyond and who have, who further their education. I've felt that way about officers in general, but that's where I'm at. Alder Swanson, then Alder Tucker Long.
Thank you. This is somewhat anecdotal, but I sort of agree with that rationale. I got my bachelor's from UW Oshkosh, which has a well-developed criminal justice program. Lots of people went through undergrad there to then become police officers. And as having spoken to some of the faculty in that program, it makes a big difference when they go back and get master's degrees in criminal justice and in law and in similar fields. And I think that we would be doing our city a disservice to not encourage that from our law enforcement officers. You know, I want the people on the streets to be smart and well-educated. I want them to have the numbers. I want them to have the data. I want them to have the experience. So I'm opposed to removing an educational incentive for that reason.
Alder Tucker Long, then Alder Humke, then Alder Lytle.
Can we clarify the educational incentive? Is that for getting a master's degree, or is it for a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, or what is it incentivizing?
Mr. Olick.
It's incentivizing credits, basically. If I remember it right, there's 3 different levels. So there's, I don't want to guess at it, but basically, once you attain, just having gone through this, at least with the with the represented staff, if you have a bachelor's degree, you get an 8% multiplier. If you have a master's degree, is it 10, Brian? Yep. And if you have an associate's or 96 credits, it's 5? 6, okay. So it's basically encouraging education. I will tell you, just having gone through this, that only one represented officer does not have a bachelor's degree. They have the 6% add-on, but anyway, I would, if I could, Mr. Mayor, one of the things I'd like to do is, given your comments, this would be like an 8% add-on to the base, which we already put at the top of that grade to account for this difference. If I could have just Mr. Lamers kind of explain, you know, there's more significant budget impacts than, you know, just a few $1,000s on this one. That's okay.
Mr. Lamers?
Can I finish my comment first?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, Alder Tucker Long, finish your comment, and then Mr. Lamers will clarify.
Okay, so what I would recommend, and I think I agree with where Jamie is going here, in that if our base requirement is that they have to have a bachelor's degree for this, and the pay scale has been graded appropriately for including the bachelor's degree, then I think what I would like to see then is the incentives for the higher levels of education then for like master's, and I don't know if there's PhD or whatever goes up from there, whatever levels we had above that, still maintained.
Mr. Lamers, Mr. Olick's clarification.
Well, I mean, you gotta look at it. You're adding Social Security, you're adding Wisconsin retirement, you're adding all the different benefits with that.
Got it. I got Alder Helmke, then Alder Lytle.
I have 2-part question. I would like either you or Mitch to get us a list of municipalities that actually pay sergeants or non-representative police officers in the surrounding municipalities an incentive. My second, just as chairing personnel and finance, like there was an extensive study done that we paid money for and are implementing citywide. I am concerned if we veer from that and again, this is not a statement on like the quality of service that you are all giving. This is a statement on like, how are we going to navigate this amongst other departments who also have feelings about whatever they think about how their compensation was valued. And I think there's potentially going to be, pushback if we start going on the path of making exceptions to the study that we paid for and we believe in. It's not just we paid for it, it's we believe in the study and we feel like the basis for the study is legitimate. So I think having information about what other municipalities around us are doing this, if there's a comparability, I would like to see that. That would make me sort of have some other feelings about which way to go on this.
Okay, I got Alder Lytle and Alder Keller.
I guess my first comment is more of a question. What would the impacts be if we delayed taking action on making the change at this meeting until some of the questions that were asked in terms of fiscal impact? I know the Personnel Committee has been through this with a fine-tooth comb, but for those of us not on personnel, kind of understanding where we rack and stand against some of our peer municipalities would be helpful in terms of making a decision. So back to the question, what would happen if we defer taking action to our next meeting?
Mr. Alec?
Nothing. No. We can bring it back.
Alder Keller. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were done.
Mara basically brought up Alder Helmke brought up basically the point that I wanted to kind of ask about, whereas like what happens when we start making exceptions to the compensation plan and what kind of ripples that could create across the entire city. So just, I guess, mostly expressing that concern.
We do have Alder Swanson.
Yeah, so I would also like that same information that Alder Helmke asked for. I guess something else I would really like, especially if we're going to bring this back in 2 weeks, is I would really like just some more actual numbers on the page comparison. Like where are people of these classes falling right now? Like anonymized would be great. And then comparing that to where they are ending up comparably to new hires that we might be bringing on, where they're moving to now in our new bands from the compensation plan that was investigated. I just, I am sort of aligned with what Alder Trucker Long was saying in terms of like, we really, like, I want to emphasize the importance of going that extra mile in terms of like the knock-on effects of the whole department, right? And then, if we've got it built in where, yeah, our baseline is having that bachelor's or comparable experience, then that's fine. But if we're not adequately, pointing out that there is some level of difference in terms of applying that extra effort, taking those extra hours, getting those extra credits, then I'm just not sure I'm in favor of that.
Okay, there is a motion before the body. If someone would like him to make a motion to refer to the next meeting, they could do so, or we could vote on it as well. Alder Tucker Long.
Do we need a motion to amend the current motion or?
No, just a motion to refer it to the next.
A motion to defer it to the next.
Refer it.
Refer it, sorry. I will move that we refer this topic to the next meeting.
This item, sure.
Or this item?
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Lytle, I believe. All those in favor of referring this to our next meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no?
No.
With Alder Weiss voting no, it passes 7-1, and we will refer it to the next meeting. Anything further from personnel? Alder Humke.
Nothing further.
All right, we'll move on to 10C, which is Public Safety and Welfare Committee. I believe Alderman Swanson is handling this.
Yes, thank you. So I move to decline to renew the contract for flock safety in the city of Verona.
Motion by Alder Swanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Tucker Lund. Alder Swanson.
I think that based on the feedback we've heard from residents, it resonates with many of my own concerns about data security and bad actors in tech, especially with tech that is relatively new and evolving and fueled by the largesse of venture capital. That being said, I would welcome some context for what we have gotten out of the contract, if the chief of police could speak to that to some degree.
Yeah, I guess in the interest of fairness, Chief Dresser, if you want to give a statement on the.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could do it jointly with Lieutenant Fairman, he's got some data he'd like to share as well. So I would like to thank you for at least taking our perspective on this matter. I heard the audience. I understand what the concerns are. On a global perspective, I share some of those concerns. I get that. I know there are many folks in our community who like having flock and they feel safer having flock. Of course, they tell me that personally. And, they're not willing to come to a meeting like this and share that publicly. So, I wish they would, so there'd be a healthy debate. I kind of saw this coming, because I know this is an organized effort, not only at the local level, but the state level and a national level. I've seen petitions. So I saw what was coming down the tracks, if you will, with this. So just to give you a little bit of background on it. City of Verona, we've had license plate recognition equipment on our cars for over a decade. We had 2 mobile units, collected license plate data. Companies called PIPS Technology, Neology, and Boss4 Software, been using it for a long time without issue. Within the last couple of years, we experimented with the use of fixed cameras, that being flock. This was in conjunction with several neighboring jurisdictions that we share a records management system with, so it wasn't just our decision alone. We did bring this up to Public Safety and Welfare about 2.5 years ago. Evan Touche was still on it at that time, I remember that. We have 3 cameras right now. I know I heard some comments that we have 4, but we have 3. It is bad, from our perspective, it's bad practice to mention the locations of those cameras. If you vote to void the contracts, it's a moot point, but we're going to follow that tonight. The effectiveness of flock cameras has been immense. Lieutenant Fairman will share some of our success stories. So currently we have 2 year-to-year contracts. 2 cameras are under one contract, 1 camera is under another contract. One expires April of 26, and the other expires July of 26. There are different dates on when the contract was signed, but we believe it was when the cameras were actually installed. That starts our 1-year mark. So again, April of 2026 and July of 2026. The data is only stored for 30 days, which is actually very restrictive. After 30 days, the data is purged. I believe there is misinformation that the data is held for months and months or years. It's not. It's purged. We've opted out of sharing data with federal agencies. We understand the concerns there. We have revoked automatic access to our data from out-of-state agencies to address some of the privacy concerns. Flock has adjusted appropriately due to data sharing concerns. A quote from them. As of October of this year, every Flock customer has complete control over their sharing relationship, and Flock never shares customer data without their knowledge or permission, unquote. I know that Flock isn't necessarily a trusted company, and I know there are some egregious examples. I've read them myself. I was appalled when I've read some of the examples. I get that. But as recent as October, Flock is telling us we control the data and they're not sharing it. Flock removed federal agencies from national and state lookup altogether. They're trying to address some of the concerns. They have added keyword filters to block attempts to search for terms related to civil immigration or reproductive health care. Obviously, that's in response to some of the egregious incidents that we all read about. There are over 6,000 communities using flock cameras, including Middleton, Wanakee, Cottage Grove, Marshall, Sun Prairie, Maple Bluff, Monona, Fitchburg. Dane County Sheriff has 28 cameras. UW-Madison has 10 cameras. Wisconsin Capitol Police, they have 6 cameras. They're everywhere we go. We're going to be a rarity, and maybe we'll be the first, if depending on how the vote goes for this area, for this region. But this is popular. We're not alone, just the city of Verona doing this. The reality is, you are recorded everywhere you go. You're being recorded from at least 2 different sources right now in this room. When you walk into the parking lot, you're being recorded. When you drive down the road, you're being recorded. When you go shopping, you're being recorded. When you're in the privacy of your own home, your devices are listening to you. When you use a computer, your search algorithms are being recorded. At least with Flock, there are some controls in place. The data is only stored for 30 days, and we control the data. A vote to end these contracts is a vote to make Verona less safe. I know not everybody agrees with that premise. Officers are alerted when stolen vehicles enter town. That's important because a lot of folks who are here to steal from vehicles or steal vehicles in their entirety, they're driving stolen vehicles. And so if we get a flock alert, we know they're in town and our officers can mobilize and try to stop that from happening. Officers are alerted if a vehicle is associated with an amber alert, a silver alert, a green alert, missing person or endangered person, vulnerable people that need assistance. If they're in the community, we'll be alerted of such and we can come to their aid. Officers are alerted if a vehicle is wanted for a violent crime, such as domestic abuse, before they can reach the victim's house. Officers are alerted if a vehicle enters town where threats were made to an individual or population, such as the school or a large business. Flock cameras have revolutionized crime detection, giving officers notice that crime might be occurring and helping us protect our most vulnerable populations. What we receive a photograph of a vehicle and a license plate, a photograph of a license plate. There's a lot of talk out there that we're getting images of people, we're getting images of passengers. That's not true. That's not what we're receiving. We do know that Flock has engaged in some potential relationships or partnerships. I can't speak to that because that's not what we currently have. That's not what the system currently is. What the future brings, I can't tell you at this point. Officers have to log their searches and give reasons why they searched. There's no expectation of privacy on public roads. There are cameras everywhere. The Madison Traffic Engineering, cameras everywhere. City of Madison Police Department, I'm not sure they have Flock, but they have cameras everywhere. When there's a crime downtown, first thing they do is jump on their cameras and they're watching for the suspects throughout all. Cameras are everywhere. I think at this point, I'll let Lieutenant Fairman talk about some of our success stories.
Sure. Thank you, Chief. This is just a handful of what I would classify as major success stories. We use it on a day-to-day basis, or there are countless that I could go on for hours and not mention. But October 15th of this year was a violent domestic violence incident. Part of the Flock safety system that we can use our what's called a custom hot list, meaning that we can manually add what vehicle plate that we want our cameras to trigger. We did that in that case, and at 6:30 a.m. the next morning, the Flock safety alerted to that suspect returning back into Verona. We were able to stop him before he got home and committed any further violence. In that process, we seized 3 firearms from a convicted felon, one of which was stolen in a burglary, and the individual was in possession of substantial drugs at that time as well. Next one was September 20th of this year. There was an individual in need of mental health who had made suicidal comments and fled from his or her parents' house in Verona. We utilized Flock to search for that individual's license plate to make sure he did not commit any type of self-violence. We were able to determine that he was heading back towards his residence in Sussex, Wisconsin. We coordinated with local agencies in that area who were able to locate and provide him with the care and help that he needed. August 28th of this year as well, a neighboring agency was investigating a telephone fraud. The typical is the Dane County Sheriff's deputy. You need to pay $7,000. You got a warrant for your arrest. An elderly woman fell victim to that. She left her residence and going to an unknown bank. We had the license plate for that incident. An officer used our system to locate that she had just passed one of our cameras a minute and a half prior. We were alerted all the on-duty officers of this. Officers were directed just to randomly start searching banks, trying to find this individual. We found her at UW Credit Union, and the officer walked in right as the last $100 bill of $7,000 was being withdrawn from her account. Once she realized that she was being scammed and hung up with the scammers, she broke down, cried, and embraced our officer for saving her the $7,000. August 22nd of this year, there was a smash and grab out of a vehicle parked at Fireman's Park. There is surveillance cameras at Fireman's Park for the safety of the park, but it only captured the side image of the vehicle passing through, so we had no idea what plate it was. But we did know the color and make and model of the vehicle. That was a white Honda Accord. That was a four-door. We used Flock's fingerprint search methods where we searched for white Honda Accords that were four doors and received a positive alert on a vehicle, which ultimately was a correct alert, and it resulted in 2 offenders being identified and charges being sent to the DA's office where there are active warrants for their arrest. July 8th of this year, the Dane County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to a double homicide in the town of Middleton. A Verona officer performed a Flock fingerprint search on that suspect vehicle who left the residence 5 minutes before deputies were called. A positive alert on that vehicle, again, I forget the make and model, but let's say it was a white Honda, was captured on the Spring Green camera. So that officer realized that, provided the information over the tactical channel. It provided the license plate because that was unknown to investigating officers. Wisconsin State Patrol located the vehicle within 10 minutes of that, and the individual was captured. May of this year, a City of Verona owned vehicle was stolen. Investigators used Flock to realize that the vehicle was repeatedly being hit on cameras in the Milwaukee area. Our investigators communicated with the Milwaukee area investigators and we located the vehicle within days. West Allis seized it for us and we got it back. Again, countless ones. March 11th of this year, a missing 77-year-old man with Alzheimer's left his residence of Verona. We used Flock to locate his vehicle traveling away from the city of Verona, so completely in the wrong direction. We contacted Beaver Dam and Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office, who located him and got him safely back home. On a day-to-day basis, our custom hot list that we enter vehicle plates, countless people who flee the scenes of law enforcement. We use it on a daily basis. We had a $42,000 ATM jackpotting event in which a offender's vehicle plate was entered into our hot list. As a part of the Flock safety features is they use deconfliction reports. So the vehicle plate that we entered, we got automatic responses back from numerous other agencies who were also watching that plate. They up from out of state. They contact us, hey, by the way, this Florida plate that you're looking for was traveling with this Ohio plate when they robbed our ATM in Ohio or whatever. So there is a investigative collaboration aspect to it as well. Real-time impaired drivers. Impaired drivers are frequently aired over our frequency, and if they're anywhere near the vicinity, our officers can enter that license plate and watch for it. So we're alerted when that impaired driver comes to Verona so that we can get it stopped and keep our roads safe. Again, I can go on, but there is countless instances in which it has been a substantial investigative resources for us saving crime and keeping Verona safe.
Thank you. We thank you for any consideration you give towards keeping the cameras in place and for at least hearing our perspective on this. We understand the overarching concern of privacy and data sharing. Again, I share some of those concerns as well on a broader perspective. We've made some adjustments to limit data sharing. Flock has assured us that the data is ours. They're not going to share it. We will hold them to that the best we can. We have policy and an SOP in place to govern the use, so there isn't abuse on our end. We have great police officers hired because of character and integrity. We have revoked access to out-of-state agencies. We have opted out of data sharing with federal agencies. If federal agencies conduct operations in our area, we could voluntarily disable the cameras to ensure they're not being used during that operational period. I ask that you work with us to ensure the system is being used appropriately and allow us to use the system for crime alerting and investigation, such as the great examples that we shared with you. As I said before, you're being recorded everywhere you go. Please don't take away this one tool that makes you and your family safer and makes us in law enforcement more effective. Trust us, well, it's hard to say trust us. I want you to trust us locally because you know us, you know who we hire, our values. I understand national picture, there's potential for abuses, and some of that was discussed. But we're very proud of the Verona Police Department. We hold ourselves accountable, and we'll put our city first. The benefit of having this tool available to our community by far outweighs the privacy concerns which have been addressed by Flock and locally and will continue to be addressed if approved.
Thank you for that explanation, Chief. We do have a motion before the body regarding not renewing the contract. Questions or comments about the motion? Alder Swanson, Alder Tucker Long, then myself.
I would just like to say that I have had nothing but professional and courteous interactions with Verona Police, and I want to emphasize that my own stance on this is utterly unrelated to my confidence in your ability to correctly manage what we need in our community, and is rather built out of a lack of trust for Flock, which I think has demonstrated that despite their assurances, they are not operating with our best interests in mind. But I do want to thank you for the hard work that I know you put in, and I regret taking away a tool that makes you better at what you do. And I hope that we can continue to explore other new tools or revisit this technology as it becomes more reliable and less divisive in the future.
Understood. Thank you.
I got Alder Tucker Long, myself, then Alder Keller.
I just wanted to recap my comments from the Public Safety Committee's public comment section for those of you who weren't here. So first off, I want to say that I'm not against participation in the Flock network because I think our officers are doing anything inappropriate. I am very proud of our officers, and I know that our officers conduct themselves with honor and integrity. But Flock is not operating with integrity. They've been caught repeatedly sharing private data with federal agencies without customer knowledge or permission. They say they discontinued federal access months ago. However, just last month in October, there were 974 searches of our data locally here tagged as federal, just in the month of October. Additionally, there are issues with the data as it is being collected and stored. A Skagit County Superior Court judge in the state of Washington ruled that Flock data is part of the public record and is subject to open records requests. This causes major issues with their 30-day retention policy, as we're required to store that data for much longer than 30 days and be able to provide that upon request for open records requests. Additionally, there's a lawsuit happening in Norfolk, Virginia. A group is suing the city of Norfolk on Fourth Amendment grounds, and the city of Norfolk asked for a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. However, the chief judge is allowing the court case to proceed because of a Supreme Court case, Carpenter versus United States, which holds that using cell phone location data to track someone's movements is a search that requires a warrant under the Fourth Amendment. And the judge wrote, "A reasonable person could believe that society's expectations as laid out by the court in Carpenter are being violated by the Norfolk Flock system." So there is a court currently proceeding and has been given permission to proceed through the courts, saying that this violates the Fourth Amendment. So this could have major legal considerations if we continue using this system. Additionally, looking through the data of our local search logs, from this last year, our local data was searched 1,628 times by organizations self-identifying as ICE. This does not include organizations that did not disclose that the searches were on behalf of ICE. Our data was also searched 5,739 times for what Flock calls other image search, meaning that it did not search for a license plate number, but used AI to search the full context of the contents of the images, which includes the car, the features of the car, the bumper stickers on the car, and due to their partnership with Amazon, Amazon's Ring service will include the passengers in the car and any other people who happen to be walking by when the picture is taken. Our data was searched 1,091 times on behalf of outside assist, which according to Flock means that our information was shared with an outside organization outside of the Flock network, and we have no information about who it was shared with. And while I appreciate that we have some examples of how this has helped us solve cases locally here, in the last year, we used our Flock data for 3,268 searches. Other organizations searched our data 6,175,236 times. That is just, there's no comparison to how much other people are accessing our data compared to the access that our own police department is using this data for. I did a quick internet search and found at least 10 other alternative companies that offer similar license plate recognition type technology that we could use that would give us more control over our data and keep it local. So while I am very much in favor of not renewing our contract with Flock, I would encourage our police department to research alternatives because I do want to continue to support their work here. I just don't want it to be with Flock. Thank you.
Lieutenant Fairman, maybe you'd be able to address some of your data concerns if asked.
Are you asking that question?
I guess I'm not sure what concerns I'm asking about, so I'm gonna.
I mean, I guess it's more or less if perhaps the police department feels they can make some clarifications on some of the
On the
numbers.
data?
And they would like to, but they can't unless they've been formally asked by an alder.
Yes, if you would like to comment on my data.
Yes, the 6.175 million is a staggering number. That is simply the amount of Flock searches that were conducted that our network is tied to. It has zero, I have access to zero data which shows if any of our data was shared with any of those 6.175 million searches. So it's an astronomical number. It includes our searches. The auditing manner in which Flock Safety documents stuff is a little bit on the strange side, meaning a single search could show up in an audit as being searched 9 times just by the variance in which they search it. It's not uncommon for an officer to search for any type of reads that occurred in the last 12 hours, but then expand his or her search out to, okay, let's back up to the next 48 hours. Okay, well, now we want to back up to the last 7 days. Okay, now I want to back up to the last 2-week period, and finally maybe a 30-day period at the end of the retention schedule. Well, that's going to be documented as 8 or 9 searches when it was all for the exact same instance. So that can attribute to the sheer number of searches that are made on the Flock system just by, we want to limit the scope of our search as constrictive as possible, but oftentimes back it out in order to get any type of investigative leads that may be visible. We don't always search all cameras across the entire nation for a retail theft suspect. We would not be doing that. We would be doing a localized search within our 3 cameras in and of itself, possibly expanding it to Fitchburg and Middleton, just because they're neighboring municipalities.
I mean, you are, but I think we should perhaps move the discussion on, if you're okay with that.
I do have one more question, if that's okay. You keep mentioning that we only have 3 cameras in town, but all of the searches done locally here for our local network, it lists 1 network being searched and 4 devices for all of your internal searches. So I'm curious, where is the 4th device coming from?
There is no 4th device. I'm actually confused in why it shows up that way as well. Our last edition camera is the one that shows up as having 2 cameras. We don't have 2 cameras. We're not receiving data from 2 devices at the location. That's something where I need to ask Flock to clear this thing up if we're going to proceed with them, because that is erroneous information.
Yeah, we have 3 cameras under contract. One of the public speakers mentioned, close to the dog park or close to the church. So I'm guessing that is old PB or highway PB, and that might be a sheriff's department camera, because again, I think they have 28 of them. So it's perhaps just so close to the city of Verona. They're saying it's in Verona when it's not.
Okay, I got myself, then Alder Keller. I just want to say, I think that we should decline the contract with Flock. This has nothing to do with the Verona Police Department. I feel like I find myself frequently defending or advocating for the Verona Police Department because I feel like it's earned. I feel like we have a really good police department. I think we're lucky. And so this has no reflection on the Verona Police Department. It does have a reflection on Flock as a company. They absolutely cannot be trusted. I appreciate the letters that were sent. I just don't believe anything that's in them. And so, to me, my concern is that if data is collected, it's almost certainly going to be abused. And it's a shame because this is a super useful tool, but the Constitution doesn't have exemptions for useful tools. And we have to follow it. And maybe we have a federal government, including a Supreme Court justice who doesn't believe in the First, Fourth, or 14th Amendment, but I still do. And I'm still going to conduct myself because I took an oath of office, and I'm still going to follow the Constitution. And that's why I think we should decline this contract. Alder Keller.
Alder Tucker Long basically answered the questions that I had about how many times the data was used, et cetera, et cetera. So I withdraw my my inquiry. Thank you.
Other comments or questions on the motion? Alder Weiss.
I'm broadly sympathetic to the concerns around privacy, but I find I'm concerned that we're putting ourselves in a situation where the improvement in privacy is minimal based upon the fact that, as the chief has mentioned, that these cameras are everywhere, and there is the broad surveillance of our lives in public it's just a feature of modern life in a lot of ways. And we're going to not improve our privacy meaningfully by eliminating 3 cameras in Verona when we spend a lot of our time outside of Verona. And so we're going to see a decrement of public safety for an improvement in privacy. But I wonder, this is something where if it was being done at the state level or even at the county level or at the federal level, I would feel differently, I think. I'm just not sure why we as a community would seek to, because it's not like this data is not being collected. It's not like we're not on camera, So I think that it's something where I think that in every job, I mean, everybody here, like when you explain your job to somebody else or when somebody else thinks that they know how to do your job, it's really easy to, I think, it's difficult to understand what other people do at work, right? And I think that, I get the sense that you guys really believe that this is, helpful for doing your job. So I will probably be on the losing side of this vote, but I do think that it's, and I'm ambivalent about it. I'm not sure how strongly I feel about it, but I'll be voting to continue the contract.
Alder Swanson, Alder Lytle, then myself.
I want to speak to something that Alder Weiss just spoke about himself, which is that part of my concern is that we don't have a statewide mechanism that protects our data. Many other states do in fact have laws in place that prohibit the use of this data in meaningful ways. Whether or not Flock will abide by that or has abided by that or any of that is not really salient because, like I said, we do not have state level protections in place. And I wish we did. It would make me feel more comfortable with voting to get rid of it because we wouldn't have this issue where all the communities around us are still going to be tracking us and still going to be keeping track of us. But at the same time, maybe sometimes we just have to move first.
Alder Lytle, then myself.
Yeah, I want to try to approach this with a service provider vendor like Flock the way I would with any other vendor that has really a dubious record in a lot of ways. And so what I want to believe, and I think Alder Tucker Long mentioned this, that we can, if this council votes to take away a tool that I believe is a very important tool for you all to have, we can very quickly, through a analysis of what the market is, find out what the next useful option is that you all see out there on the marketplace. I think we may be slightly ahead of the curve with some of the other communities in Dane County, but I could see this happening a lot of other places. And so the utility that Flock provides could be decreasing significantly no matter what the city of Verona does. So, thinking of us as a receiver of information on license plates is vehicles involved that we want to be aware of, but an island for the most part of automatically sending that information out to, the broader vendor database would be ideal to me. And so I would hope that between you all and city staff, we could either, have an RFP drafted fairly quickly, or probably not even require an RFP, but, public safety, hear from you all, if Flock goes away, what the next best option would be. And I would be supportive of trying to get that in place in a very expedited manner to minimize the downside. And again, not to say what everyone else has said, but the fact that we unfortunately have a vendor that has not been very consistent in what their statements have been, and it's not been very reliable in the information that they've provided when we've asked them, would make it very hard for me to continue that relationship no matter what kind of a service they're providing, but especially a service that does have so many privacy concerns associated with it.
I got myself and Alder Humke. I just wanted to note that Madison does not have Flock cameras. They do have a ton of other cameras that the police department does use, but they don't have Flock cameras. And I think, it's we don't know what the future is going to hold, but I think on some level, like standing up and doing the right thing can be an example to others. And maybe if it was just Verona, sure, it wouldn't matter. Although I still think it's worth doing the right thing, whether anyone pays attention to you or not. But two, if it's Verona and Madison and another community, it could have an impact well beyond just where we live. Alder Humke.
For those of you who know me, I believe in the power of local government. Sort of piggyback off what the mayor is saying is I believe that we have the power to make choices that affect other municipalities and make them stand up and pay attention. We've done it with other things. I think we can do it with this. I'm going to echo what other people have said, is I believe in the ethical, qualities of the department. I don't believe that your officers are using this in any sort of malicious way, and I find it so unfortunate that we are in this position, because all the examples that you gave are incredible ways in which we support our community and keep people safe. I echo the concept of partnering with a different organization that can be trusted. I agree with what everybody here in the public comment has said, what the alders have said. It just, unfortunately, Flock is not trustworthy no matter what kind of guarantees that they have given you. And I would like to see us come up with another opportunity to partner with somebody else, some other organization, to make sure that we are able to continue the work that you're doing, provide you that information, and keep our community safe while keeping the information of the people coming through Verona also safe.
Alder Harrison.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about this as well. It's just, Flock provides a bunch of benefit, and they are untruthful about the way that they share their data. So at the very basis, the argument that they provide a benefit and will respect your boundaries, your stated boundaries in a contract, that they will not share our data, that we can opt out of these scary things that we've heard of. I just don't trust it, right? The problem with lying is that when you lie about one thing, it pulls everything into question. There's undeniably a baby that we're throwing out with this bathwater, but I don't think that we shouldn't keep that bathwater around just to keep the baby. You know what I mean? It's just AI is dangerous without oversight and a realistic, significant demonstration of need. You know, and we're saying Flock has assured us that our data is ours, right? But we can't trust that. We simply can't. So yeah, I agree. We should look into alternatives so that we don't lose such a useful tool. But I don't want this, I don't want to contribute to the creation of a crowdsourced police state. You know, I don't think that that is the future anyone here wants, right?
Other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, let's see what the motion says. All those in favor of declining to renew the contract between Flock Safety and the City of Verona signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
And that motion passes with Alder Weiss voting no. Anything further from Public Safety and Welfare?
Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 11, which is new business. First up, we have 11A, a discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 25-033, declaring a need for the Housing Authority of Dane County, Wisconsin to exercise its powers within the City of Verona. Mr. Alec.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The resolution under consideration authorizes the Housing Authority of Dane County to provide a loan to the Argus Apartments Affordable Housing Project and other future projects should any arise in the City of Verona.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions on this item?
I move
Alder Swanson.
I move to approve the resolution.
Could you read the whole thing?
Sorry, let me find it.
Or on the screen?
Or on the screen, that's helpful. I move to approve resolution number 25-033, declaring a need for the Housing Authority of Dane County, Wisconsin to exercise its powers within the City of Verona, Wisconsin.
Motion by Alder Swanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing, Alder Takarlan.
Quick question on this one. Does this allow them to operate without working with us? And does this make it an indefinite amount of time?
Mr. Alec?
Good question, Alder Tucker Long. No, they have to work with us because future approvals for affordable housing projects will go through the Plan Commission, and that is a check in the system for DCHA lending.
Perfect. Thank you.
Motion before the body. Other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number 25-033, declaring need for the Housing Authority of Dane County, Wisconsin to exercise powers within the City of Verona, Wisconsin, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no? And that motion passes. We will now go to item 12, which is old business. We have one item, which is 12A, a discussion and possible action regarding the City of Verona versus the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District and related litigation options. I know our attorney has an update to give us in closed session. I'm wondering if we can get an update in open session as to where we're at. Mr. Alec.
She is online right now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
You'd like to call on her?
Ms. Westerberg, if you give us an update for open session.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. So where the city left things in the last, after the last common council meeting was we had received an offer for Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District and counter to the cities regarding settlement of the ongoing appeal. And we had declined the MMSD offer or counteroffer. And so the question what that we were considering was whether to make our own counteroffer. And as part of that, we were collecting a little bit more information from DNR and talking about, what we could possibly, considering things that we could possibly ask for or suggest as a counter. So We have a little bit more information that that we can share in closed session, or there's not too much more to say now. We got some more ideas about you know, stream bank restoration, that thing, from some outside sources. But that's I think probably the most we could say in open session at the moment.
Okay. Any questions regarding this topic for open session? Alder Lytle.
Is it reasonable to ask the city administrator to share the information that the DNR provided to MMSD in terms of their determination? I believe that's public record.
Yeah, Mr. Alec?
Yes, that would have been part of the email that you received earlier today. So how would you like me to?
Are you comfortable summarizing it in terms of the ask, or maybe Ms. Westerberg could do that for us? The ask that the sewer district had of the DNR and the DNR's response?
So yeah, I can talk about that. MMSD had asked the DNR to clarify some prior correspondence where DNR had said, you know, your modeling, like to go way back at the time of the approval back in November, the DNR said, we are approving this modification to the area-wide water quality management plan, but we want you to do further modeling and monitoring to confirm that there will be no violation of water quality standards, and specifically dissolved oxygen, which is what we were concerned about for maintaining trout in particular. And, you know, failing those modeling runs, we would have suggestions for additional projects, or what you'd engage with stakeholders on projects to improve the stream and correct those problems. The MMSD did do some modeling. We had some questions about it, and then it turns out DNR did as well, because they wrote MMSD a fairly long letter saying, here are some issues that we've noticed with the modeling, and now we want you to, you know, engage in further projects. MMSD wrote back and said, you know, well, this isn't clear to us, because we did our modeling, it looked great, and now you want us to take these other projects on, and there wasn't really an option in the letter you wrote us for that. We either complied with the modeling and we were good, or we didn't comply, and then we would have to do projects. And DNR just most recently wrote back and said, well, modeling is inherently, you know, it's always just kind of a guess. There's always going to be questions about whether it replicates real world conditions. So what we, and all the things we told you to do in this last letter were just recommendations. So it appears to us that DNR is not going to do anything further with respect to the modification. And, you know, they are viewing this more at this point of a discussion or negotiation between the city and MMSD. Does that kind of bring us up to current?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know that there are hundreds of people tuned in, but it's nice to have that summary versus, you know, letters that aren't technically court filings, but are fairly technical and legal in nature. Thank you.
Any more?
Yeah, it was a little superficial, but hopefully did the job.
Any other questions for open session? I would entertain a motion to go into closed session if people would like to negotiate this further. Alder Tucker Lund.
I move that we go into closed session regarding the City of Verona versus Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District and related litigation options. The Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Sub 1 Sub G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is involved. City of Verona v. Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources et al., Court of Appeals, number 25-AP-1725, and Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Sub 1 Sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting of other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session regarding potential resolution of City of Verona v. Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources et al. The Common Council may reconvene in open session and take action on the closed session item.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Swanson. This is, of course, a roll call vote. Clerk Lake would be so kind as to read the roll.
Alderperson Harrison?
Aye.
Alderperson Helmke?
Aye.
Alderperson Host?
Aye.
Alderperson Keller?
Aye.
Alderperson Lytle?
Aye.
Alderperson Swanson?
Aye.
Alderperson Tucker Long?
Aye.
Alderperson Weiss?
Aye.
Does anyone want to break before we start the closed session? Yes, please. Okay, let's start the closed session at 10 o'clock. Uh, 10:28 p.m. and we are back in open session regarding the City of Verona versus the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, MMSD. Would anyone like to make a motion in open session? Alder Tucker Long.
I move that we continue on with our appeal.
Motion by Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Weiss, I believe. All those in favor of the motion to continue with the appeal signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no.
No.
And that motion passes with Alder Lytle voting against. We'll move on to item 13, which is adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Hoax to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Alder Hunke. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And we are adjourned at 10:28 p.m. Thank you, everyone.